Yo, what's good, you guys? Your boy Justin Henry here, Pro Bob Palmer. We are going to be talking about week two, going over the bets, talking about some players, individual matchups. So, obviously, we got to go over the slate, man. A big slate. Obviously, we're talking Sunday and Monday. The Thursday night game has already happened. So, we're going to be talking about the 14 games on Sunday and the Monday night matchup, man. P, how are you feeling going into week two? Because I think we learned a little bit heading like week one, but I feel like there was a shitty overall quarterback play. So kind of like I couldn't really get a gauge on every team.
Yeah, it's there was shitty quarterback play in week one. It's like, there's just people still figuring stuff out. Teams are still trying to gel with one another, especially with all the holdouts. They're trying to figure all that stuff out. So I don't want to put too much stock in it, but I don't want to overreact too much. But there was some telling things in there. So
there was some telling things. Well, let's get into the slate, man, so we don't have a 5-hour show going over picks. The first game on the agenda is the Saints and the Cowboys, which will be part of the early slate on Sunday. Dallas is favored by 6 points. The Saints fresh off of demolition of the Carolina Panthers, and total sitting at 47 points. How do you think, man? Obviously, Dallas did their thing against Cleveland last week, too, like really destroying them in every way. This would be a good defensive battle, but that point total sitting at 47 is a little high. How are you feeling about this game?
I think 6 is a lot in this game, just with this new offensive scheme. I know they played Carolina, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. But I still think that, riding on that high of dropping all those points on Carolina, I think 6 is a lot for Dallas. Dallas does have a good defense, but, it looks like they're scheming some of these players open. So I wouldn't be surprised if Nola covers. That 47, I think it could be a little low too, bro.
I feel like it's a little high. 47. I feel like it's high for these defenses. The only thing is no Marshawn Lattimore for the Saints this week, so he'll be out, expected to be out. So we're gonna see CD eat this game. Okay. And that'd be the only thing I'd say with this total being over. I would probably stay away from the total. I like Dallas to win this game, though. I don't know about the 6 points. Normally I go with the team I think is going to win, and I normally go with the points there. But Dallas, to me, I think they're the better football team defensively, offensively. And New Orleans really wasn't tested last week against Carolina. That's a bad football team, the Panthers.
Terrible.
So,
terrible.
I like that passing attack, man. Obviously, one of the players to watch out for in this game, Chris Olave, right? Didn't play very well. How you feeling about Chris Olave heading into this matchup?
I was reading somewhere about Chris Olave. Everybody thinks Diggs is going to be on him. I think they have Diggs as like a stationary corner on the left, and Chris Olave primarily stationary corner on the right. They play opposite sides, right? And if they do move Chris Olave a little bit to the slot, that's still not Diggs territory. So I think Olave does have. Obviously, he's going to have a better game than he did last week, but yeah, I mean, I like him this week.
It's a high-scoring game. If it's going to happen, it better happen this game against Dallas, because otherwise we got some major concerns. I always thought, like, Olave is not the offense. He's a part of the offense, whereas Alvin Kamara is the offense, and that's the big difference in those two.
Yeah. You can
all right, so both of us got Dallas?
I'll take that. Yeah. I'll take Dallas.
We're going to keep track of these picks, by the
way. That's what we doing it for, man.
I'm going to write down these picks, bruh.
Yep.
Both on
Dallas. I think Dallas is going to win this game. Yeah.
So JP, we gonna keep the tally, bro.
Man, where's my pen at?
Yeah, because I'm gonna, you know what I'm saying. Otherwise, I'm gonna pencil with you.
I already know you, Jay. I already know.
Right, you picked New Orleans, didn't you? You picked New Orleans. You took the L.
No, I'm gonna tell you like this though, and I'm gonna keep this shit 100, man. I do think New Orleans is gonna cover. I think New Orleans will still lose, but I do think that I don't think it's going to be by 6.
Yeah, we'll see about that. All right, heading into Detroit, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going against Detroit. Detroit is 7.5-point favorites. The total in this game is the highest for the week, 51.5. That might be too low with both of these teams the way they were slinging the ball last week, especially on this Tampa side. I really like Tampa to go in here and cover. This is a really high total for me. 7.5, and it kind of shows a little disrespect to me on what Tampa did last week to a Commanders team and the improvements that they looked offensively. I get it, like Detroit has the better, like the defensive side of the ball, they're probably better than Tampa, but they can be exploited as well. And I think that they might have got a little love because we saw them in prime time. And in that dismantled offensive line for the Rams, it was like, they kind of were having their way. So I'm betting here on Tampa, especially a touchdown and a half is a lot for Tampa. I got Tampa covering. I kind of want to say they're going to win this game too. I got Tampa in the win.
Brother, let me tell you like this, man. If you know what, like Detroit's got a good run defense, but they're susceptible on the back end. And if one team's going to take advantage of that, it's going to be Mike Evans, it's going to be Godwin, and it's going to be Baker Mayfield. Man, they were slinging it. Didn't they play last year in the playoffs and Detroit knocked them out?
Yeah, Detroit knocked them out in the playoffs.
Yeah, so they looking for that get back, boy. I still think ultimately Detroit wins this game, but it's not going to be by over a touchdown. I can tell you that.
That line is kind of crazy to me. I'm not gonna lie. I would think this would be like a 4.5, 5.5 type line. To see 7.5 is a little high to me. That Vegas got me looking at that one. Like, what do y'all know that I don't? Because to me, this seems like it'd be a closer game. As far as the fantasy radar, Jahmyr Gibbs, he struggled a little bit last week to some degree, right? Like, didn't see the top 5 pick that you drafted him as. Are you concerned about him and David Montgomery splitting work? You think he has better days ahead? How are you feeling about Jahmyr Gibbs?
Yeah, of course he has better days ahead. You got to understand he's coming back from that injury. So they have to work him back in. What was it, like a sprained MCL?
I completely, that lost my mind. Good point.
Yeah, so they're working him back in. And you don't need to give him such a heavy workload when he is working back from an injury, when you got David Montgomery right there, that offensive line right there to push things around. You got your closer there, but I do see a bounce back coming up soon. I'm not worried about him, long story short.
Yeah, I ain't worried about Jahmyr Gibbs. This could be the bounce back game too, just for the record. All right, moving on to Indy and Green Bay. Green Bay is 2.5-point underdogs at home, which I guess makes sense. Obviously Lambeau's a tough pace for a lot of people to come in there, but Anthony Richardson coming off of a loss against Houston, played an incredible game. This receiving core has to get healthier. Josh Downs potentially on the mend, so there's that there. But Jonathan Taylor in a really good spot for this offense. I don't normally like taking this team in Green Bay, but with Malik Willis starting this week, I'm like, dog, this seemed like a gimme, which normally doesn't work in our favor.
Yo, I'm gonna tell you like this. I and everywhere I got that I am streaming defenses, I'm picking up Indy. Indy's got a good defense, right? Yeah. You pair that with Malik Willis, it's like 2.5 is almost a slap in the face. I think.
Have we ever seen him? Has he won a game yet? I'm trying to remember back. I know he's won like maybe one game, but like even with Vrabel, it was bad sometimes.
One thing I will say, and this, we could take this with a grain of salt, but every start that Malik Willis did have, the running back one. I mean, it was Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry had his best games with Malik Willis starting. So that could be something for Josh Jacobs. However, plus 2.5, I think that's Indy all day.
Yeah, I got Indy too in this one. With the line, without the line, I feel like with the spread, I'm taking. Give me the 2.5. I'll chalk it up, man. So, as far as the total for this game, I'm kind of leaning under here, bro. It feels like I feel like the Colts get out to a big lead and then they're up by 10, 14 points. Jay Taylor goes crazy in the second half, and they just start pounding the rock. That's what this feels like. But the spread here does not give me. I'm looking at that. Vegas is fucking with us this week, bro. Bro. How is Tampa 7.5-point dogs, and we got Green Bay only 2.5-point dogs? It don't make no sense. I know home field, but still.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think, I do see it going in that way. I do see Indy jumping out to a 10, 13-point lead and just milking the clock out from there.
Let me ask you this, though. Green Bay receivers, are you worried about them? How worried are you? Are you starting Jayden Reed? Are you benching all of them? Like, what's it look like for you Green Bay receiver-wise?
It's ugly, bro. It's ugly. I really don't, like Jayden, like how can you feel comfortable? You got Malik there. You know what I mean? Like Malik is he's new to this team, so he's new to this scheme. So he has to, learn this new scheme, and he just never looked good. He never looked good throwing the rock. And this defensive front's not no pushover either. It's like, they may be middle of the road, but I don't know. I don't feel comfortable starting any of them. To me, panic meter, probably like a 9 out of 10 for these wide receivers.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs is the only like locked-in starter. I would, even if I was desperate in Superflex, I might even put a position player over Malik Willis if I had another one that was comparable. And then as far as like Jaden Reed, I'm like the only saving grace for him is he's a good yak guy. He gets stuff after the catch, and they use him in the run game sometimes too in misdirection. So yeah. Going to another low-scoring game here, the Jets at Tennessee. We got a 4-point differential here. Jets are favored by 4 in Tennessee. 41 points on the board. This to me screams defensive matchup.
100%.
Defensive matchup. How are you feeling about this one, Pete? This game screams defense in my opinion.
Well, I do think it. I think it's more defense. I think the Jets have a real big bounce back game defensively against this Tennessee team. Will Levis looks shaky. Looks like he can make mistakes. And one thing that this defensive line does is they can get after the quarterback. They went on a spree.
He's on his hands and knees.
I'm like, bro, get up. I was like, get up. No, but on my Meek Mill stuff. But I do think that this defensive line is going to get pressure. And on the back end, like they got a really good secondary as well. So I think Aaron Rodgers has never started 0-2 in his career. Never. You know what I'm saying? So that should tell you something. He looked good throwing the rock last week too. He had some sling behind it. So I do see a good game. We're going to have to start pausing this whole thing up.
But I'm trying not to go there. He was like, he looked good. He got some sling behind him. I'm like,
boy. Nah, I'm going to tell you like this though, man. Who's going to have a surprise game continuing from last week? I think we do see a good game from Allen Lazard in this one, though.
Not a bad assessment, especially L'Jarius Sneed's going to be probably draped all over Garrett Wilson there. So the only thing is I'm kind of like, I'm on the fence with this game. This is a really hard game for me to project. I think defensively, I'm expecting an under here, almost by a lot. Like this screams like a 17-14 type game, maybe a 2017 type game. I really think this is an under type game. But when I look at this Jets offense, like we know where the ball is going every time. It's Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. And I think that's a big problem for a quarterback that's still trying to like trust his throwing fully. Like we saw him, he looks different throwing the ball. Aaron Rodgers does. He looks a little bit different throwing the football. I can't get it mechanically wise, but it looks a little different. But I think we know where this team is going. L'Jarius Sneed, and you got on the line Jeffrey Simmons. So it's like we know what this team is going to do, and they have the counteract to stop it. Like this Tennessee defense is a good defense.
It is a good defense.
And I think they showed that last week against the Bears. They got a lot of push on the offensive line, and I know there's been a lot of strides on the Jets offensive line, but I think Tennessee might give this team some trouble defensively. So it really comes down to, do I believe in the Tennessee offense? It's literally what it comes down to. And I think if this team was to try to go through Calvin Ridley, it'd be an auto L in my book. But for some reason, I think we see a better balance this week of Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears. I think Tennessee gets a win at home, man. I think they get this win. This is tough. Aaron Rodgers don't go 0-2. I'm taking Tennessee in this one to upset the Jets.
Wow. I love that. Jay with the 10 pick. Their defense is good. Their defense is underrated. Yeah, I'm gonna have to stick with the Jets on this one.
Yeah, on the road in Tennessee. This would be a good one. Both 0-1 teams. Moving on to our team. Hey, this line has came down. This was at 6. It is heading in the opposite direction. Home teams, 5.5-point favorites. This is a line. The underdogs hit this one a lot. I have a lot of concerns as a Niner fan on a short week that this might be a trap game.
The trap game.
I'm feeling it and I don't want to feel it, but this feels like the ultimate. We are going to the somewhat East Coast, right? Minnesota. This is a travel game for us on a short week. If I was playing the line, I would 1,000% be on the Vikings. We have not won in Minnesota. You sent me the stats since what year, P?
What was it, like 92?
1992. We have not won in Minnesota. And the one that sticks with us, P, I know we've talked about this on stream before. That Brett Favre to Greg Lewis throw. Ooh. Man. So I think the Niners are the better football team. And I think the one thing we didn't get in week 1 was enough information about the Vikings because they played the lowly Jets. This week will give us a lot more information about the Vikings, if they're real or not. I'm taking the Niners in a pick 'em. But if I was playing the spread, Minnesota would be my ticket.
Bro, look, Aaron Jones consistently eats against us, or he did last year in the playoffs. He's on Minnesota now. I do think, we ain't won in Minnesota since '92. But this is just a different team. I think obviously we're gonna beat them. I think that the fact that we have, we don't have Armstead this year, entering Malik. Damn, I keep wanting to say Malik Willis, but our new defensive tackle, Malik, whatever his name is, but
I'm over here.
yeah, I keep wanting to say Malik
yeah.
Willis. It's Malik something else. I keep forgetting his name. Yeah, we'll look that up. But this dude is a whole stuffer. Malik Collins, bro, a whole stuffer. Yeah, I'm thinking like, you know what I'm saying? But this guy, bro. I know.
Me too. I got a Niners shit in the background. I'm like, I'm a fan now.
I know. I'm like, come on, bro. No, but look, this defensive line is different. I love the speed opposite of Bosa on the other side with my boy Leonard Floyd. We got two good, solid corners, right? We got Charvarius Ward. Diamador Lenore looks like a stud. He was following Garrett Wilson around. I think ultimately we're going to be too much. I mean, offensively, I think we see a bounce back game from Brandon Ayuk. And I think the Niners cover, bro. I think it's just too much of an overall good team. We know Sam Darnold. He was on our team last year. I think we know his weaknesses. But I mean, you can't count them out because that offensive coach is good. I'm still picking the Niners.
Yeah, O'Connell, he can scheme them open with the best. So yeah, I think this is an interesting game though. And Brandon Ayuk's a player who we haven't seen play his best. Dropped a touchdown last week, was on limited snaps. So I'm watching Brandon Ayuk this week to figure out, is he back to normal? It's going to take him a few extra games to knock the rust off that he had. But that is why you play preseason. That's why holding out sometimes it takes players a little bit. So I'm watching Brandon Ayuk to see if he can be a wide receiver too this week. I think he bounces back against his Vikings defense, even though he's got a tough matchup on the other side with Stephon Gilmore. Heading to New England, Seattle at New England. New England, 3.5-point dogs against Seattle. One of the lower scoring games of this week. There's one that's actually lower than this, but one of the lower scoring games of the week, 38.5 points. P, how are you feeling about this Seahawks team, man, going into New England?
Listen, if we're talking trap games, I think that this has a trap game kind of, I don't know if I'm ready to say that, but I do think that New England's defense is underrated. You've been talking about Christian Gonzalez and how he's an underrated corner. I see him locking up DK. It looks like he's going to follow DK. So as far as fantasy perspective, I'm sitting DK. But 3.5 dogs at home. I don't know. I think I may rock with New England with the points here, just based off their defense, bro.
Who do you think wins outright?
I think Seattle wins outright.
3.5, and you would take the points, but Seattle to win. You got 3.5. You got to think the Pats are going to win, unless you're just picking.
I mean, Seattle. I think it's like I feel like this has like 13-16 written all over it, bro. I feel like this is a field goal type game. I want to take New England because you know what I'm saying. I want to take New England. I think
this is a pick 'em show, bro. Pick it. You ain't got nothing. We ain't playing for no.
All right, man. Let's go, man. I'm going New England, bro. Let's go. New England.
Here, bro.
All right, man. I got to get that scary shiz out of me, man. You know what I'm saying?
Though. But these are the decisions, man. These are tough, and these are tough games because we saw Seattle play like they played kind of mediocre against a bad Denver Broncos team last week.
They did,
and it's like it was tough for me because I know how bad Joe Burrow looked last week, but it's like you got to respect the defense. Gerard Mayo's turning things around over there, and it's like maybe this New England defense is better than we thought. I'm still going to rock with Seattle on this one, and I think Seattle will cover. It is an interesting line at 3.5. I think Seattle will still cover. I think they'll play better. And you mentioned DK, and if DK gets shut down, that means we're probably going to get a little bit more. If JSN does not do it this week, I will have major concerns about him. For now, I think this is a bounce back game for JSN.
Okay.
All right, Giants and Commanders, and the Giants look terrible last week. And They're going into Washington, who has a bad defense, and Washington is favored. That's how you know how bad the Giants are. Washington is favored by 1.5 points here, 43 points on the board. A lot here because we got to see it's either Washington defense is that bad or the Giants offense is that bad. One of these two is going to get exposed. And if we can see Malik Neighbors, we can see Daniel Jones find some kind of chemistry, if they can get things going on the ground, if they can score some touchdowns, they can get some points. It was hard for the Giants to move the ball down the field. So I think for me, what I'm looking at is, can this Giants offense be any better than they were last week against what we thought was going to be a bad Vikings defense? I'm taking Washington in this one. I'm taking Washington, taking them with the points. But at least the Giants, I want them to show me something. I feel like that line's kind of disrespectful to Washington. I feel like Washington's just a better team.
Bro, I feel the same way. I'm taking Washington as well. I'm taking Washington to cover. Taking Washington to win outright. Listen, Washington's defensive coordinator, they got Dan Campbell over there, right? Dan Quinn might be. They got Dan Quinn over there. I mean, generally, and it's his first year coaching there, it does take some time for those guys to gel and play right. And I mean, there's no better team that you can practice really against than this weak ass Giants team. So, Daniel Jones is just not really a threat. If you look around, their biggest threat is Malik Neighbors, right? He's the biggest, because the running game's not a threat. Obviously, he's not a threat passing. So it's easy to kind of little as one. I mean, this could honestly be a Wandale game where he gets 10 catches, 50 yards type shit. But I really don't. Yeah, I like Washington. I like Washington a lot.
What do you make of, obviously, Malik Neighbors? We're talking about him, potentially big game. But the rookie on the other side, Jaden Daniels. Yeah. What do you make of him? Obviously, had an elite week last week. Cliff Kingsbury, Dan Quinn, they said they want him to run less. They don't want him to run 16 times a game. Yeah. Run less scramble drill, more passing. Yeah. You think that's going to affect his play? Do you think there's any legitimacy to that? Do you think he's still elite, or do you think that tears him down a little bit?
No, I think he's a lock for a top 12, bearing that he stays healthy, man. I've been talking about this. I think that they need to run less. That's coach talk, right? I mean, you have to say stuff like that, because if they say, we're going to keep running them, that's what the game plan is going to be on the other side. So I'm really excited about this kid. I really love the fact that he just creates so many mismatches on the goal line, within the 5-yard line, where he could just run it in, because not just him, but we got Brian Robinson, looking good, bro. He looks like he could run the rock there. And the fact that they have that up-tempo offense, I really like that. I do think that he has a better game passing this week. He shows off a little bit more of his passing skills this week for him, and a bounce back for Terry McLaurin.
Bounce back for Terry McLaurin, a player who a lot of people are probably down on. I'm with you there. Against this Giants team, they need to get him going. In order to move that offense and win games, they got to get Terry McLaurin going.
Let's get it.
All right, next up, we got the Los Angeles Chargers and Carolina Panthers. Panthers looked terrible last week. And the Chargers, that offensive line looked great. They were able to run the football, especially in the second half. J.K. Dobbins got going. 39 points on the board. Going to be one of the lower scoring games of the week. Who you got, Chargers or Panthers?
Give me the Chargers. Harbaugh's got these boys playing good. That tackle that they drafted, Joe Alt is a certified monster.
Stud, bro.
He is a stud. And they're just going to – look, bro, I think that they're going to get up. Carolina has a hard time moving the ball against anybody. And I think that they're going to choke this game out. So I got Carolina, or I got the Chargers winning outright.
Yeah, I got the Chargers winning, but I do think that I think we see Carolina's best this week if they have it. If they have a best. Yeah. I think we see their best this week. I think we see them a little sharper than they were. This is why Bryce Young needed to be on the field during preseason. I still to this day don't know what they were doing, keeping him out. He should have been playing all 4 quarters of all 3 games. Yeah. That's what I feel with Bryce. He needed to get more work. But I just think this ground attack for the Chargers, they're going to keep their foot on their neck all day with J.K. Dobbins. And I think Gus Edwards will play a role too. The big question is J.K. Dobbins the lead, or is Gus Edwards still going to be in the fold? And we've seen Harbaugh in the past. Outside of like Frank Gore, we know that he'll use 2 running backs. Kendall Hunter, they will use 2 running backs and run the hot running back. So I think J.K. Dobbins has it for now, but I still expect this to be a split.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Look, they brought in Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins for a reason, right? Like, both of those players can get hot. Gus Edwards didn't look good, averaging under 3 yards a carry last week, but he's the Thunder, bro. And you can call J.K. Dobbins a Lightning, even though he gets caught from behind. But I see, I wouldn't panic too much on Gus Edwards just based off the nature of how Harbaugh runs things.
11 carries to 10 carries. Both of them were involved, and his team just lost Derek Brown on the defensive line. Could be trouble for Carolina. Moving on to probably, I think this is an underrated game. Cleveland and Jacksonville. This is going to be an underrated game on the slate. I think this could be one of the more exciting games of the week if Deshaun plays better. But Deshaun struggled last week against the Dallas defense. That's, we got to call it what it is. They're one of the better defenses in the league. He struggled, and to the tune of playing like shit, having accusations against him, potentially contract voids. There's a lot of stuff going on, dealing with death around him, his family, and his teammates. So a lot of stuff weighing in on Deshaun Watson could have been affecting his head. I'm curious to see how it plays out because this Browns defense is a good defense, and they got dismantled by Dallas. So I'm coming over here thinking, like, how can this looks like a rebound game for them on paper, but Jacksonville's coming off a bad loss to Miami. So both of these teams are kind of in win now spots. Jacksonville's favored by 3. I'm going to go with Jacksonville here. I got to see it from Cleveland. Before I say I'm confident in this team, I got to see Deshaun Watson look like he's all the way back from everything he's dealing with, plus the shoulder. We haven't seen Deshaun Watson look anywhere near Deshaun Watson. I'm going Jacksonville this game with the points. And in the total, I'm kind of staying away from this total because I want to see what Deshaun Watson looks like moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, you said you got to see it from Deshaun Watson. Look, I got to see it from Trevor Lawrence, man. I've been really high on this guy, and he's kind of been making me look stupid. He historically has fast starts, didn't have a good start last week, and just, it looks like they were getting to him. Don't forget, there's this defense in Cleveland is a star-studded defense. If we're talking about overreactions, I think that week 1, everybody pounding and just throwing Deshaun Watson away is one of the biggest. It's going to be one of the biggest overreactions. Don't see him as being like a top 12 quarterback, but he's still talented, and he's still got talented wide receivers on the outside. It looks like Jerome Ford doesn't look bad. He looked good last week. You know what I mean? And if they can just put it together, right? Whether they're rushing, whether they're, passing. Look, Jacksonville gave up 100 yards to 2 wide receivers last week. Give me, you know what I'm saying? I was having this conversation with a buddy of mine, man. I think that Cleveland bounces back. I'm taking Cleveland. I think they bounce back, and I think they win outright.
It's not a bad pick. And, this does have the makings of like a Cleveland +3 type when you're betting it. I think, looking at it, I think I would probably still go Jacksonville, but it's more of a stay away, in my opinion, just because of the uncertainty with Deshaun. If he comes out and plays well, Cleveland's going to win this game. And if he struggles a little bit, he still has some other clouds weighing over his head, then I think this would be – what do you think about Amari Cooper, though? Because Amari Cooper obviously didn't play well, and he is attached to Deshaun Watson. Do you think he bounces back this year, or do you think this is going to be an up and down year for him?
No, I think he bounces back this year. Look, one of the things you want to look at, Dallas, you got to give – you mentioned this earlier, Dallas's defense is really good, right? From the front end, the back end too, their corners look good. He was targeted. What did he get? Like 11 targets? Yeah, right. Amari Cooper got he got 11. He got targeted, and I think he exposes. I think they get on the same page. He had a mini holdout, and I think he's gonna be a little bit more consistent moving forward. To be honest with you,
wide receiver 3 type play for me at this moment right now, still. And then on the other side, Jacksonville, we got a running back committee, 12 carries for both Etienne and Bigsby. The question is, was it a running back committee for one game or a season-long committee? We're going to find that out. I think Travis Etienne bounces back this week. Moving on. Raiders and Ravens. P, I'm going to go to you first on this one. Obviously, the Raiders lost to the Chargers last week in a game that was a winnable game for them. They lost that game going against Baltimore, who Could have played better against the Chiefs, had a chance to win that game there at the end. Did not execute. They will be looking for blood at home. Who you got?
Clearly, I'm going to take Baltimore in this one. They're outclassing the Raiders by like 2 or 3 classes, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? Like they look like a complete team. Yeah. They had some bad luck against the Chiefs last week, but this is still a Ravens team that is dominant. This is still going to be maybe a 12-plus win team, and it starts here at home, 8.5 points. I would take them to clear that. Dude, that defense is still good. They still have weapons that they can choose. They can pick and choose to whoever they want to target. I see a huge game coming from your boy, King Henry.
Oh, King Henry. Yeah. I can see that.
Big game from King Henry.
I think this is a game where we see Ravens kind of flex their weapons. Last week was a big target Zay Flowers game, target Isaiah Likely game. This is a game now against the Raiders where you can get everybody happy. Derrick Henry, get him in the end zone again, close to 100 yards rushing. Rashad Bateman, you can get him a few extra targets this game. Mark Andrews can bounce back in a major way this week. So I think this is a get-right game for some of the more reliable faces that we've had on this Ravens team, and they're going to show all the ways that they can beat you. So I think the Ravens win in this one. I don't think it's particularly close. Concerned a little bit about Devontae Adams going up against Marlon Humphrey. I think at lower ceiling, I'm not expecting him to be completely shut out, but do have some concerns there.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to Los Angeles Rams and the Arizona Cardinals now. Division game here on deck. Cardinals are 1-point favorites.
That's a pick.
Over-under here is 48 at home. When I look at this offensive line for the Rams, knowing that they're missing Puka Nacua, knowing that they got a lot of starters out, this is going to be a tough matchup for them, even though Arizona is an inferior team on paper. Yeah. I like the Rams defense. I think they're a good team, but they could struggle here in this spot. I find it tough to be a division rival, dealing with the offensive line issues that they are, to go into Arizona and get this win. I think it's going to be a struggle. I'm going to pick the Cardinals, and I think the Cardinals showed promise last week against the Buffalo Bills. And before the season started, I would have been, this is a no-brainer Rams for me. I think just dealing with some of the things they are, coming off of kind of, you can call it an emotional loss to Detroit, being I know it's a game that Stafford wanted to win and had an opportunity to win at times. I'm going to go with the Cardinals in this one. Bounce back effort at home. I don't love the pick, but that's where I would go with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a pick 'em, so it's going to be a difficult one. Now, where I will say is, the advantage when you're talking about offensive line versus defensive line, the advantage is going to go Arizona Cardinals when we're talking their offensive line versus the Rams defensive line. We just seen Detroit just have their way with them in overtime and just all runs, and it seemed like it was butter. Now, we've seen Arizona run the rock really well against Buffalo last week, but Buffalo was primarily, throughout the whole first half, they were primarily running nickel, so it was just easy, right? Which made less targets for Marvin Harrison, which made less targets for, a lot of people there.
All those guys, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, but I'm still going to go Arizona here. I just think that the Rams have no defense. They are hobbled on offense, and I can see Arizona really just kind of choking them out via defense.
This is a pick'em game. I think the popular pick is probably going to be the Rams here. Like, why are they underdogs? I think that's going to be the popular pick. But this Arizona team is going to be able to run the rock, and I think there's a lot of concerns about Marvin Harrison. You and I don't have those concerns because we obviously talked about that during the offseason and the concerns we had. But a first-round pick, the team spent high draft capital on him, and we're not getting the elite production. Only 3 targets last week, only 1 catch. And it's like I think the concern here is, does Marvin play well fantasy-wise? For me, I just don't see the need to, right? I can see a bounce-back game from him having 4 or 5 catches. I'm not expecting an elite performance game, but a bounce-back game. But I think this team wins through James Conner right now. Kyler Murray using his legs, making smart football plays, James Conner and Trey McBride, and kind of just taking their time. I can see this game going under very easily, especially off of the fireworks we saw last week between both of these teams in their respective games. I like Arizona, and I can see the under, but Marvin, I think if you have Marvin, just tear him down a little bit instead of like panicking and being like, he's trash. He's not trash. It's just he's going to be inconsistent over the first half of the year.
Yeah, man. Really quick on Marvin, man, before we jump to the next one. Just looking at him, he looked timid, right? He looked scared. He looked like the lights were just a little too bright for him. You can tell that for a few reasons, like the routes he was running just weren't like, he didn't have no
And all
burst. He
that
was running
training
slow.
camp shit, right?
Yeah, and it's the thing is, obviously he's not going to be a wide receiver, like a back end wide receiver one, like everybody drafted him as, but I do see, like you're saying, bounce back. He could be a back end wide receiver too for the remainder of this season until he gets his legs under him, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I think second half we might see a different Mar, but for now, it's going to be a little inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh, Denver. You want to talk about real? This is going to be Denver, 2.5-point dogs here, 36.5 points on the board, which is the lowest total on the board, and for good reason. It's Pittsburgh offense, obviously going to be going, making some changes. Justin Fields going to be starting here until Russ gets back, or maybe even afterward. But for now, this would have been a good, nice revenge game for Russ. We're not getting that. Justin Fields leading this offense, and on the other side, Bo Nix struggled a little bit against Seattle. Still made it a game, though, because his defense did get 2 safeties, got a couple extra possessions. Who you like in this game, Pete?
I like Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh's defense is elite. I think the Pittsburgh defense is really good. And going against a stuttering offense in Denver, which you really don't have anything to be excited about, I think Pittsburgh wins outright. Now you mentioned it too. Like you got a not a bad defense from Denver, but they got good pieces. Like I don't see Pickens having a game. Patrick Surtain is going to cover him. So I mean, it's going to be one of those. I may even still take the under on this, bro. 36 and a half. I may still take the under, bro. I could really see this being like a 16-13 type
16-9
game.
16-9 type
bro.
Shit.
Ugly.
Ugly, bro. I'm not that far off with you. Now, I think Pittsburgh offense will move the ball. I think George Pickens can beat Patrick Surtain the same way DK did. Even if he's following him around, they're moving him around a lot this year, putting him in the slot. So even if he follows, I think Pickens will be fine as far as like a high-end wide receiver 3. Where you drafted him, I think he's fine there. Now, the player I'm looking at here is Najee Harris. And obviously with Justin Fields' running capabilities, we saw Kenneth Walker go crazy against his defense last week. I'd expect Najee to probably find the end zone. Looks like a strong situation for him. And then Denver, I have major concerns about this offense. When you see Cortland Sutton, I mean, you got peppered with targets. Couldn't produce. And then they have what's the other receiver's name? Dolly, the other guy, 7. He has 7 catches. So I'm like, they're gonna find miscellaneous guys to do things. But the run game, Javonte, McLaughlin, they got committee there. The receivers, there's no stud on this team, and you got a young quarterback in there. I'm just like, I don't really see no promise with this offense. So maybe I'm completely wrong on Denver, and they somehow find a way to win this game or cover this game. But to me, this screams like Pittsburgh blowout. 23-9, like something like that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I do see a huge game from Najee, though, for sure.
Najee going to play well. All right, a couple more games here on the schedule. We got Cincinnati at KC in a game that normally we'd be super excited about. This is the AFC Championship preview. It ain't that this week. So we don't know if T. Higgins is going to be available. It's looking unlikely he's going to be on the field. But the Cincinnati team, P, is a lot different than it used to be. And at least even a year ago, and KC looks like they might be hitting another gear.
Yeah.
I think KC demolishes the Bengals this weekend. And we talk about panic for the Bengals, who have a disgruntled receiver in Jamar Chase, an unpaid and injured receiver in T. Higgins, and a quarterback who looks like he might still be dealing with some of the effects of that wrist injury. Not to mention you lost your best running back who you thought was easily replaceable this offseason, trade him away for basically nothing. And then you get Zach Moss and Chase Brown, who are mediocre at best, even when you put them together. I don't like what this season looks like for the Bengals, and I think they struggle in a game against a team they normally have a rivalry with. I think the Kansas City Chiefs try to put their mark on this game and say, you know what? We are that much better than you. I got the Chiefs with the points. Give me it.
Yeah, Chiefs with the points for sure. There is all that talk. That is a narrative. Oh, this is a rivalry. Oh, whoop. I don't know. The last time the Cincinnati hasn't beat KC in a few years now, right?
Since the AFC Championship?
Yeah, they haven't beat them in a few years now. And the thing is, this KC team offensively is better than they were last year, and KC beat them last year. And Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and them boys, I think they're gonna come out and embarrass this team, bro. Real talk. I think they're gonna come out and embarrass this team.
And Spag's been doing his thing, man. Spagnuolo, like he got the defense looking right, even though they lost L'Jarius Sneed. I mean, they still played well against the Ravens for the most part. So KC, man, I just think they're too good to lose this one. Moving on to the Sunday night football game, the Chicago Bears and the Houston Texans, 6.5-point favorites for Houston. P, when I look at this game, I look at a team that got a win last week in Chicago. You can take that for what you want. And I look at a team that scraped out a win. Well, they put it on them at the end, but the Houston Texans over the division rival in the Colts had their way at the end there. Who you like in this game?
To win the game outright, I'm taking Houston, right? I think that Chicago has some things that they need to work out, particularly on that offensive line. There is a lot of upside. A few things that I did like. I like the fact that you called it, Keenan Allen is getting peppered. Love that. I like Chicago's defense too. I like how they're getting creative with the calls. They're disguising their coverages. They can have people make mistakes. Ultimately,
for sure they can have people make mistakes.
Q Levis, man. Man, why you put your hands on your head, dog? But ultimately, I think Houston's offense is just too much. They can beat you in many ways. They can run the rock down your throat. They can beat you deep. They can beat you intermediate. You know what I'm saying? Their defense is good too. It's good enough, right? So I do have Houston winning this game. I think Caleb, I think he tries to create too much. He tries to do too much. And once he gets back to just playing once you get back to just playing football, like sound football, I think they're going to be a better team. But I think Houston, I think Houston comes out with the dub.
I think you got the points. You taking Chicago with the points or Houston with the points?
This is a good one, but I'm gonna tell you like this. I think Houston. You know what? I'm taking Chicago with the points, man. I like that defense, bro. I'm gonna tell you like this. I like that defense. I like it, man. I like it.
I like the defense too, but not as much as I like this Houston defense going up against Caleb Williams. Now, A-Rich looked human against him, 9 for 22, made a couple superhuman throws though, and that's the difference. Is will Caleb complete those passes? Rome Odunze banged up, Keenan Allen banged up, questionable. Both of them are questionable for this week. I look at that offensive line. You touched on it for a second, but that offensive line is in shambles right now. Tennessee was having their way. And I think we forget the offseason moves that this Texans defense made. They're going to look much better here in Caleb's first primetime spot where the lights are shining brightest and all the media attention is on how he's going to play this week. And his nails are shining and glistening at the same time. I think this is where Houston says, nah, bruh. CJ, you are not CJ Stroud. We got the better quarterback. We got the better team. And I see this being a blowout, like a big blowout, like 33-14 type blowout, something like that. You know what I'm saying? I think Houston has their way with Chicago. When we look back and we're like, damn, there's a lot of growing up to do for the run game, for the offensive line, for Caleb Williams. I can see multiple picks this game from Caleb Williams. I think he looks like a true rookie here, and there's going to be a lot of negative backlash, unfortunately, for Caleb. That's how I see this game playing out.
Wow.
Okay. I think we get this. I think we get a sense of like, oh, Houston's for real. Like, they're a threat to win the Super Bowl. I think that's what we get out of this game. Real quick, Diggs, Nico, you feel the type of way about either one of those guys? Both had strong fantasy performances. Or you like one is clearly the better than the other? Like, how do you feel about them just in general, real quick?
I mean, you look at the usage, I love what I've seen from Nico. Diggs looks like he got some touchdowns in there. And he was kind of,
only
we talked about this.
9.5 air yards.
Oh, A.9. I mean, that, that is what it is. But yeah, it was kind of like what we predicted, right? Like, I know you're on the Diggs side. I'm on the Nico side. They both put up similar numbers until Diggs got that last touchdown. But I think that's how it's going to be. I think Nico is going to be the guy that's going to stretch the field. I think Diggs is going to be more of a safety blanket. PPR, Diggs. Nico, if he catches a touchdown in that big game he had, then we're talking about, one of the better wide receiver performances of the week, right? That's the upside that you're going to get with them. The beauty of this offense is you can't key in on one player. You know what I'm saying? Because Stroud, as good as he is, as smart as he is, he's got a running game now. He's got wide receivers across the field, Diggs, Tank Dell, Nico. How do you key in on that? Like when you're looking for a stop, how are you going to who are you going to cover, right? The fact that there's no pure alpha makes it hard for defenses.
What's crazy is there was always talk, who's the X receiver? Seeing Stephon Diggs work out the slot is crazy work, bro. He was putting it on. It's unguardable. It's unguardable. You have to put your best corner on him, or you got to put him on Nico. And it's like, you got your slot corner on Diggs. He's cooking them. Cooking them, bro.
Cooked.
Oh, my God.
Bro.
Last game of the week, ATL, Philly. ATL. Minus Philly is 6.5-point favorites, 47 points on the board. And after a strong showing for Philly last week against Green Bay and a weaker showing from Atlanta, there's a lot of question marks about this Atlanta offense in general going up against the Steelers. They get to go into Philly. And for me, when I look at this game, I see a lot of positives for Philly and I see a lot of negatives for Atlanta. How are you see this one? How do you see this?
Yeah, I mean, Philly looked good. Look, Saquon looked great. I will say that Jalen Hurts in this particular offense, he looks like he makes mistakes, throwing irrational passes in the end zone. It's good. It's a good thing that they didn't lose that game because they could have lost it right there. I think that I like Philly to win this game. I do think that Atlanta bounces back. I'll take Atlanta to cover. I'll take Atlanta to cover. And one thing about that, Atlanta looked terrible against the Steelers, but the Steelers defense is elite. Yeah. The Steelers got an elite defense, so that stifled some people. I think that the Steelers defense is better than Philly. I do see a bounce back game. They commented to get our the wide receiver, the Rock. God, what's my dog's name? Help me out, Jay. Damn.
You talking about Atlanta?
Yeah. Yeah, Drake London. We got to clip that one out.
It's going in there. Hey, it's going in there. That's the beauty of this show. Because it goes in there. They're going to get to learn you the same way we've been having combos.
Yeah,
It's what it is.
But they commented that they need to get Drake London the ball more. I do see that this being more of a Drake London game, along with your boy Bijan. So I think Drake London's going to have a bounce back game. And this is prime time. So they ain't got no choice but to show out. If they lose, there's gonna be some callings for that backup if
Michael Penix's back.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? But listen, if they lose is a big statement. I got Atlanta winning this game, covering and winning this game, going into Philly, where a lot of people are expecting this thing to probably be a blowout. Mm-hmm. Both of these running backs are going to show their ass, man. Both of them, Barkley and Bijan. And I think great games from both of them. Bijan Robinson, Drake London both have good games and get this thing on track. And I think we see the primetime Kirk. He plays like shit in primetime. I think we see Kirk look much better today, or on Monday, excuse me. I think we see Kirk Cousins play a much better football game, much cleaner. I think they clean up some of the things they were having problems with against Pittsburgh. So I'm not concerned at all about Drake London. Not concerned about Kirk just yet. Anything else, Peter? That wraps up week 1 for us, man, or week 2 for us. Anything else you got?
I mean, that's what we got, man. Tap into the fantasy, tap into our my TikTok. I need some followers, man. Show some love out there.
Yeah, show some love, man.
Yeah, man. I'm dropping content, maybe dropping dimes. I may not remember everybody's name off the rip, but hey, I got game. I got game for you, baby.
Man, all good. And I think this week, if you were, kind of disappointed by the lower scoring matchups, don't be surprised if we see a couple teams go in this week. I think we can see some big games from some of these teams. But until the next one, we will see y'all. Peace out.